Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. Today, we have more great news for the Second Amendment community. This one is titled Concealed Carry Permits Surge to 22 million, 25 states don't even require it. I live in one of those states. We have constitutional carry here. I don't even have to worry about a permit if I don't want to. Now, I can get a permit here. Anyone can. But you don't need to. It's called constitutional carry for a reason, because that's what the Constitution intended. But even in the states that don't have constitutional carry, people are carrying more and more, and at the most of any time in history right now. So let's get into it. Before we get started, just want to remind you to please like and subscribe to the channel, share this video, and leave me a comment about what you think about this. Now let's get started. So as I said, this article is entitled Concealed Carry Permits Surge to 22 million. 25 states don't even require it. That's half the country has constitutional carry now. We are winning. The Second Amendment is winning. The anti-gunners, they're losing more and more every day. The gun craze sparked by the 2016 presidential election, the COVID crisis, and the flurry of random and mass shootings has also led to a record-breaking issuance of concealed carry permits, especially to women and minorities seeking self-protection. This is exactly what the anti-gunners are against, and I love it. A new and authoritative report put the number of permits held by Americans at 22.01 million. That number was a 2.3% surge over last year, according to John Lott's Crime Prevention Research Center. The new report, provided Thursday to Secrets, was the first on the issue since the U.S. Supreme Court in June struck down New York's May issue concealed carry handgun law, signaling that states trying to block getting permits to pack heat will be penalized. So many of these wins that we're getting lately are on the back of the Bruen decision. That has done more for the Second Amendment than anything in years. The most recent one that I can think of before that is Miller, but Bruen is helping us more and more with every court decision. What's more, even at an historic high of 22 million permits, the number only includes half the nation. The other half has moved swiftly to remove permit restrictions, allowing citizens to carry guns with them, though rules vary by state. And that's an even bigger thing to me. So they talk about 22 million being a record number of concealed carry permits. Well, half the country doesn't even require those permits. And I'd be willing to bet that in those states that don't require permits, there are more percentage of the population carrying concealed than there are in states that do require permits, though there's no way to count those. As more and more states decide not to require permits, the number of people who can legally carry a handgun will increasingly outpace the number of permit holders. The number of people who carry permitted concealed handguns is clearly related to the cost of getting permission. That's the thing. Firearms already cost money. You have to buy the firearm itself, ammunition, safe storage, cleaning supplies. There's lots of things that go along with firearm ownership. But then to have to also go through the added cost of getting a permit just to carry your firearm, it's prohibitive for a lot of people. And so that's another reason that constitutional carry is so important. When there is no cost whatsoever, concealed carry becomes very popular, said the report. According to available data, Lott's report found that 8.5% of adults have a carry permit. Not bad. That means at least, especially with the ones that don't have permits or don't need them, you got to think that at least 1 out of every 10 people you meet might be carrying a handgun. It's a good thing. Alabama has the highest concealed carry rate, 32.5%. That means 1 in 3 people in Alabama has a concealed carry permit. Maybe every third person you meet there has a pistol on them. Indiana is second with 23.4%, and Georgia is third with 15.5%. The report also said that 6 states have over 1 million permit holders: Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and of course, Texas. Florida is number 1 with 2.57 million permits. And what was once a male practice, women are getting their permits too, duplicating their purchases of guns, especially since the city riots of 2020 and the coronavirus crisis. So people are realizing with what's been going on in the world, how important it is to be able to protect yourself, to take your own safety and your own life into your own hands and not to rely on anyone else, the government, the authorities, to provide protection for you, because whether they want to be able to protect you or not, they don't have the means to be there at every minute when something bad happens. The only person you can rely on is yourself. Lott reported that women made up 29.2% of permit holders in the 15 states that provide data by gender. A third of the people that have concealed carry permits are women. This is huge. An increase from the 28.3% last year. 7 states had data from 2012 to 2021, 2022, and permit numbers grew 115.4% faster for women than for men. This is really good, and there's a lot of reasons for this. One big reason that I can think of is that the more people that are carrying concealed, the more people are going to vote for politicians that support the Second Amendment and vote against politicians that want to regulate firearms and firearm ownership. So especially with more women and minorities concealed carrying, that is more people voting for the Second Amendment rather than against it, because they don't want to lose their right to self-defense. This is a big deal. And it makes sense to me. People carrying guns are polite people. Honestly, carrying a gun makes you a better person because you have a huge responsibility when you're carrying a firearm. You can't go around being aggressive and getting in fights with people because you want to avoid any situation where you might ever have to deploy your firearm as much as you possibly can. Being a concealed carry pistol carrier, someone with a gun on them, it is your duty to de-escalate situations, to walk away from fights, and to be the bigger, better person because you're carrying deadly force. And deadly force can only ever be used when it is against other deadly force. The only time that you can pull your weapon is if you are afraid that you or your family is under threat of death or serious bodily injury. And so it makes you a better, more responsible person. It makes you calmer, cooler headed. You don't go out and drink too much. There's just a lot of things that you have to be more conscious of if you're carrying concealed. You have to be a more responsible person than you would have otherwise been. And I've seen this in my own life and in the lives of my friends that carry concealed. They are some of the most responsible people I know. And they don't want to get into fights. They don't want to cause trouble because they don't want to have to make that life or death situation. They don't want to have to make that decision where someone could lose their life. That's a really big deal, and it's something that you want to avoid at all costs. But it's also something that you want to be prepared for just in case. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you need a firearm, you want to be ready for that situation. You need to be out there and you need to be training, you need to be shooting, you need to be practicing with your concealed carry firearm. That is very important. I was out shooting today with this pistol because even though it might not be the most fun gun that I have to shoot, it's the one that is most likely going to be the one that I ever have to use in a serious defensive situation. And so I better be able to shoot it well. And that's another part of the responsibility of carrying a firearm. It's not just about buying a gun, buying a holster, and start carrying. There's a lot more that goes into it than that. You have to practice with it. You have to do a lot of things. You have to make sure that you get a belt and a holster that works for you, a gun that works for you, a gun with a caliber that is effective. In my opinion, at least 9mm, maybe 380, but at least 9mm, definitely not 22. And you can argue that if you want in the comments. But I believe that you have to have an appropriate defensive caliber, a firearm that has enough capacity of that defensive caliber. But at the same time, I want something small and easy to conceal because it has to be comfortable in order for a person to actually want to carry it all the time. And if you're going to carry, you have to carry all the time, because the one time you're not carrying is going to be the one time you wish you were. But anyway, I want to know what you guys have to think about this. I think this is great. More and more of the country is embracing the Second Amendment and exercising their rights under the Constitution to protect themselves, to take their own personal responsibility for their safety and the safety of their families. And that is huge to me. It makes for a more responsible population and a safer population overall. Because the criminals are going to get guns no matter what. That's what they want to do. So the more guns that are in the hands of responsible Americans that are ready to fight back if they have to, but are responsible enough not to fight back if they don't have to, that's a good thing. I don't see any bad in that whatsoever. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe to the channel. Share this video if you liked it. Drop me a like. I love you guys. From Sawtooth Tactical. Stay strapped or get clapped.